Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Today we are here with three different universities that are part of EUTOPIA. I would like to start by presenting myself. My name is José Chen. I'm from Lisbon, Portugal, and I'm a PhD candidate in the NOVA University of Lisbon, specifically in the National School of Public Health, and I'll be your moderator today. And I will start sharing my screen because I have a really short presentation so that I can introduce to you to this webinar and also to EUTOPIA. So this webinar is about environmental threats and basically what EUTOPIA universities are doing to tackle it. And the environmental threats that we're talking about are pollution, biodiversity loss, and climate change, and the impact that these three dimensions have on human health. So today we will be hearing from three universities from EUTOPIA, which is NOVA University of Lisbon, the Babeș-Bolyai University in Romania, and also the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. And to start this webinar, I'd like to talk a bit about EUTOPIA first. So EUTOPIA is an alliance of 10 European universities, and it's connected and committed to develop a new model for integrating higher education in Europe and through transnational cooperation. It is part of the European Universities Initiative, and it's co-funded by the European Union. And it's not just an alliance of universities. It connects an inclusive community, and it's driven by shared values and a common vision. And it has this collaborative approach and focuses on challenge-based learning, pedagogical excellence, and also shared innovation, trying to address both local but also global challenges since we've been located in a global scale, and we have to look into the global challenges that affect not only on the global scale, like climate change, but also we have to see that these challenges also affect us locally. And we've seen with climate change the local impacts on extreme weather events and floods and drought that have been affecting us worldwide. And EUTOPIA tries to shape a new model for higher education in Europe, and has 10 different universities, as that I'm showing in the screen. NOVA, then Babeș-Bolyai in Romania, and Warwick are today represented in this webinar. And we also have global partners like universities outside Europe that are committed to tackle the same challenges and sharing the same values as EUTOPIA. And a lot of things can be done within EUTOPIA, as sharing research projects, sharing learning communities that we can have, for instance, projects that PhD students or master students can share and research together within these universities, but also exchanges that students can do across these universities. And also, for instance, there are projects that students and both the university communities can develop together within this network. So today, as I said, we are going to talk a bit about environmental threats and what universities, in specific EUTOPIA universities, can do to tackle this threat. And we will start, now I'm stopping sharing my screen, and I have three main questions that I'd like to pose to our speakers. But first, I'd like to invite them to present themselves. We can start with Professor Susana Viegas. Would you like to take the floor and present?
Yes,
yourself.
sure. Thank you so much, José, for this introduction and also to pass me the word, and I will pass to my colleagues. So I'm Susana Viegas from Nova National School of Public Health. I'm a professor and researcher in the Occupation and Environmental Health Department. Nice to be here with all of you. Raquel, maybe you can follow.
Morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are in this global presentation. So I'm Raquel Nunes. I'm an assistant professor in health and environment. I'm originally from Portugal, incidentally, but it was a coincidence. I'm based at the Warwick Medical School at the University of Warwick, and my research is on climate change and health impacts with a societal approach.
My name is Rudolf Hartel. I am from Babeș-Bolyai University. I'm ecologist and I'm associate professor, and I'm interested in increasing in the exploring the social dimensions of nature conservation. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much to the three of you for accepting this invitation and for participating in this webinar. So first of all, I'd like you to describe a bit about your activities and what your institution have been doing to contribute to reducing the impact of these environmental threats on human health. And we can start with Professor Susana Viegas.
Yes, sure, with pleasure. So the Nova National School of Public Health has three main activities. So the first is training or teaching, and then research, and also science service to the community. So in the first one, in teaching, we developed several training programs, PhD and masters. And in most of those programs, we have lectures on environmental health, occupational health, climate change, and public health and One Health. We also have dedicated courses. I think we were the first ones in the EU developing a course on climate change and public health. And the idea is to adapt better to this climate change scenario. So on the training, we have many actions being put in place, and some of them already with some historical path. On research, we have several research projects on pollution. So the idea is to identify, recognize, and make risk assessment related with the presence of chemicals on the different environmental compartments, and try to identify the different actions that need to put in place to prevent that contamination or even eliminate that contamination. We also have projects on climate change adaptation. And the last one, or the last publication that we have from one of those projects, was related with the adaptation of the healthcare service when Portugal has heat waves. That is to provide information to stakeholders so they can better decide what kind of activities they should put in place when they have information about the heat wave. And we also have other projects that try to make the link between different environmental threats in a One Health approach. So we try to show how pollution, climate change, and biodiversity are linked and can indeed increase the impact on human health. So that is on research. And also in the service to the community, we have several projects, ongoing projects in the science to policy framework, because we collaborate with Portuguese agencies such as the Environment Portuguese Agency. We also collaborate with the European Chemicals Agency that regulates most of the chemical safety regulation in the EU. And we also participate in several actions in the European Environmental Agency. And of course, in this process, we try to promote or to translate knowledge that is available and make it more available for the colleagues that need to take decisions at the policy level. So this is very much on a science to policy framework. That is our work, and it is indeed very interesting to develop. Thank you. So maybe pass the word to Raquel.
Thank you, Susana. So in terms of the Warwick and what we do at Warwick, mainly as a global university, as Susana mentioned, we also focus both on undergraduate, postgraduate degrees. We do a lot of research. We're also a business linked university, so there are a lot of businesses that are based on campus where students and staff can work and develop projects. So there's a research to practice and development approach by the university, and there's also a clear understanding for the links that are needed for engagement with different types of communities, local, regional, international communities, and also policy and impact. So that the University of Warwick has an engagement institute that is called Warwick Institute of Engagement, that champions high quality public engagement related to all practices, both in terms of teaching and also in terms of the research that is produced by the university. So in terms of the specific topic that we are addressing today, so climate change, pollution, biodiversity, the most significant aspects that I would like to mention is that the university is a huge campus. It has thousands of staff and students, and it's what we struggle to understand is who does what and where. So there is a lot of research being done on these topics in health sciences and engineering, in social sciences, in psychology, in physics, chemistry, life sciences. So as we are doing here today, we try and engage both internally and externally so we can find and recognize the different research that is happening, and so we can collaborate more. From my personal perspective, my work focuses on public health and the wider determinants of health and disaster risk and how they link with climate change challenges, more specifically related to extreme temperatures, also droughts and wildfires, and also trying to understand how we can achieve health impacts from looking at other policies that are outside of health and integrating a health in all policies approach in order to achieve more and better in the quickest possible time. So I've also developed research that relates to the Sendai framework and the Sustainable Development Goals. So looking at how health can be and should be put at the center of some of these frameworks, as well as for example, the COP and IPCC assessments. I also held a COP26 climate risk fellowship where I looked at extreme weather events and impacts on health. And most recently, I'm the principal investigator in a project that is looking at how, in this case, the NHS is implementing actions to help decarbonize its activities, looking specifically at primary care and general practice. So I think we do many things. We should know more what everyone is is doing, and I think today is a great opportunity also to expand our horizons and explore opportunities. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I would pass the floor to Dr. Thibault.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for joining this webinar. I see big interest, which is very nice. So I am from Babeș-Bolyai University. I have ecology background. I joined this university 4 years ago. So I am still exploring the opportunities in this university to implement research which has social impact and social relevance. In a strategy level, our university also, as you also suggested before, also have 3 main axes of activities: education, research, and what we call it relation with the society. That means that this last one is the new one, and the university is trying to mature how to quantify. People who are not in university from this webinar may not know that it's easy to quantify scientific impact and to measure, because we have some numbers there, number of papers, projects, their influence, and so on. All have a lot of negatives, of course, and challenges are associated how to really interpret this. But in terms of social impact, what is the quality? What kind of activity counts? And how you measure the difference what you make in the society. So we are still maturing in this way. But learning and improving, that's the point. And this year, our university is better than it was last year in terms of social relevance and social cognitive transfer to the society. I will present mostly so first, Babeș-Bolyai University is the biggest university of Romania, and according to some rankings, is the first one in many ways. So is a top university, and not sure how relevant this may be, but is important in terms of research innovation, and is highly diverse and well-grounded and respected at the level of the society. And basically, from my own perspective, and expertise, we have a Faculty of Biology, Geology, and also Faculty of Geography and Environmental Science, which cover basically all 3 main aspects enumerated relevant for this webinar. Colleagues from the Geography faculty are studying heat waves and the mortality caused by this. They also published last year a paper for Romania, so which is maybe for Susana is also a possible contact if you don't know already about this. And also colleagues, so Professor Adina Croitoru is leading this type of research. She is the climate scientist, and also part in IPCC assessments and teams and workshops. And my colleague, Professor Benedek József, is working on sustainable development goals, and they developed a lot of indexes, adjusted indexes to rank and assess the rural and urban areas of Romania, generated some maps which are not only interesting scientifically speaking, but also increasingly relevant at a policy level. He was involved in the collaboration with the Romanian government in developing and maturing the sustainable development goals. And to turn to ecology and biology, where I am also working in this field, we have high expertise in taxonomy. Taxonomy, that means the science of determining species, is a dying discipline, unfortunately, across Europe. But we still have them, extraordinary people with a lot of knowledge on species. Also, we are in the partnerships with the non-academic stakeholders like town halls, farmer associations, NGOs are intensifying. That means that the social demand for understanding the state of nature is increasing, and we respond to this request by including non-academic stakeholders as partners, formal partners in our projects now. So since last year, we have equal partners, and we share also the financial benefits with them, with the associations with which we are working. And we also contribute massively to policy development. For example, Romania is quite unique across Europe because we have a law targeting large old trees, which was developed by us, basically. I have an initiative on the remarkable trees of Romania, and that was highly positively received by policymakers. So we have a law, and now we are working on developing the institutions to implement the law. The point is that we also try to be as relevant as we can, and we are moving toward transdisciplinary approaches. We try to understand what that means, to discover ourselves in this process, to understand the premises of transdisciplinarity, and where we have to mature in order to be able institutionally to support and create safe operating space for transdisciplinary approaches, but also to really be able to co-create that knowledge and solutions what are needed for certain complex problems. Thank you very much. Sorry for speaking so much.
Thank you so much to the three of you for sharing your expertise and also for sharing the practices that you've been developing in your own institutions. I'll take on something that Dr. Tibor just said about co-creation. And that's what EUTOPIA also aims for, trying to build something together. So I would also like to ask, for the future, what would you like to have the opportunity to be involved in or develop so that your contribution to this goal can be even improved or strengthened? So I would like to ask, what would you like to see developed in the future in this matter? So I'll start with Dr. Susana Viegas, Professor Susana. Your floor is yours.
Thank you so much, José. Well, I guess I have this kind of message that universities can serve the society in different ways, and I provide some examples, and my colleagues also provide interesting examples how we can produce knowledge for others to use, and well, to use to take decisions and even policies that can help us to at least to work for a more sustainable future. So I think I would like to have more partnerships, to engage with more colleagues from other countries and from other institutions, and to have more impact in this knowledge that we produce, translate that knowledge and put it available for others to use. And I also have the pleasure to work in two initiatives from my faculty. One of those initiatives is a white paper that we are producing and on the emergent threats for public health. Some of those environmental determinants, such as climate change, and the kind of solutions or actions that we suggest to be developed in the future, where public health can have an important role to mitigate the impact of climate change. The second initiative is an innovation center in public health. It's an initiative, a leader initiative in Portugal that I'm also very happy to be involved with. And the idea is to put in place in a more formal manner this kind of producing knowledge using different data from different origins, and put this knowledge available for others to use. And with these decisions are continuous being made based on science. And And we hope that with that kind of approach, policies are taken in a way that guarantee us to all of us a more sustainable future. So I'm very happy that these two initiatives are in a speed mode, the white paper and the innovation center. So I hope we will have results also to show to a wider community this kind of products. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to ask Professor Raquel Nunes to share.
Thank you. So in terms of answering the question, I think Susana obviously picked on very interesting ways of how we can take the opportunity that EUTOPIA is giving to us, and it's good that initiatives like this exist, and we should take the most of these opportunities. I think in my specific case, I have not been involved, and I am not involved directly with EUTOPIA. So it's really interesting to find out about what is happening within the Alliance. And from now on, exploring these opportunities for collaboration, for research, for development. Because as we all know, both as academics and as practitioners, we work in our own silos of expertise, and it's hard to try and understand what other research is going on, how research is being used and applied in practice, and what impact it is having in policy development and policy implementation. So from my own point of view, and what I want to do in the future is engage more with policy, engage more with communities and the public as well. So it's kind of bringing research to different audiences and how we can translate research findings into both policy and practice, both nationally and internationally. And I suppose that in this case, by being in the UK and UK being out of the EU, I kind of feel a bit isolated, although the UK is part of obviously EUTOPIA and other research consortiums and funding. I think I am finding a little bit as an outsider. But it's definitely good to be here today and exploring what different universities are doing, and seeing that there are and there should be opportunities now and in the future for collaboration, and trying to understand what we are doing in different parts of the world, and how we can bring together different types of expertise and different types of policy making and making health a priority in these different areas of climate change, biodiversity, and pollution. Because in the end, if we don't have healthy individuals, if we don't have a healthy community, we can't do anything. So health is at the core of everything, and should be given the priority that it has in the sense of how we live our lives now and in the future, and how we can preserve and protect the life of future generations in this planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Raquel. I would just like to add that climate change is such a global issue that I don't think, of course, the EU has its impact, but I think that we all should be worried about it. And regardless of not being part of the EU, I think we all can contribute and can collaborate in Utopia. As we talked about, we have global partners as well that are not part of the EU. So I think that personally, at least, I think that Utopia can be, it has a focus on the EU, but it can open its doors to everyone who wants to join and contribute to, for instance, climate change. And thank you so much for your contribution. It was very valuable. And now I'd like to pass the floor to Dr. Tibor.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed also the previous presentations, and my very lucky situation is that you already provide some insights for me about what can I talk. So thank you. For me, and I think us also, I can speak in the in university name of university also, is to. It would be very interesting to and important to mature somehow the transdisciplinary approaches, since everything you mentioned, academia indeed would be the avant-garde of social changes. It was always. Now it seems that it loses this potential somehow based from Eastern European perspective. So we somehow could contribute to the helping the society to navigate the increasing uncertainties which cascades from climate change. For example, just 2 days ago, a nice team of scientists showed that from the past to present, the major force of driving species extinctions were people, but in the future it will be the climate change, and the relative importance it will increase. So through an absurdum, if we stop wiping out species directly, they will be wiped out by the inertias of climate change, and that means that we have to help nature and ourselves to navigate climate change. But the emergency is given. Do we have the conceptual grounds to do that? The answer is not really. We have to develop the conceptual and institutional setup to help the societies to navigate. And that is exactly what I see as an opportunity in Utopia and any kind of institutional partnership, academic institutions, and not only, is that we could help each other. We are in a big darkness. We don't know the direction. We have to keep our hands closed and make steps together and discover step by step the safe way of going ahead. And this can be and will be possible through such partnerships. So a kind of meta community of practice, academic practice, it would be really, really fascinating. Unfortunately, till now, I was not so active in Utopia because, but I'm active in other transdisciplinary projects. And if I can provide study cases or lessons, how to not do, how to do, what worked in our case and what not worked in our cultural context, I would be very happy to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the three of you. I think this disciplinary approach is very important, given also the topic. For instance, I'm a public health practitioner, and I don't know much about biodiversity and biodiversity loss. So I think it's quite important that we involve people from all different fields and also different countries, because the realities might be different, and everyone can contribute a bit to tackling climate change. So thank you so much for your contributions. I would move on to another question that I had prepared. So, and I would further elaborate and like you to challenge you to also talk a bit about it. So the question would be about, how do you see Utopia as a promoter of booster of these actions that we just talked? And for instance, we know that universities are higher education institutions that also have their carbon footprint, and how can we as institutions also lower our impact? And do you see, for instance, EUTOPIA has a platform for sharing best practices or collaborating in projects, as we already talked a bit about it? So I would challenge you to answer these questions that I just posed. So in the end, how do you see EUTOPIA in the future, as a promoter or booster of these actions? And I would pass the floor to Professor Susana Viegas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, José. Well, I think it's how I normally say to my students, it's a world of opportunities. I think EUTOPIA can mainstream our activities, giving a different impact. If we collaborate like we are doing today and on this webinar, passing our experience and activities that we develop in our institutions, is a way that to pass a message in a different context, but also to a different public. And indeed, is a way to know each other better, to collaborate more in research, but also in teaching, and also to learn with each other what works well and what does not work so well, and what we can improve during that process. And yeah, I think it's indeed a world of opportunities. A challenge from my side is to navigate better in the world of EUTOPIA. I think I need to learn more how we could and how we can collaborate more to have better results and to involve not only professors and researchers, but also, of course, also our students, and to create a higher community and a higher impact on all our activities. So I see this moment as one of those opportunities, and I hope we have more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor Raquel Nunes, what do you think?
I totally agree with what Susana said. I think, yeah, as Tibor has mentioned, I think we are kind of in symphony, and we kind of think about EUTOPIA and the things the research and the teaching we are doing very, very similarly. And as I was saying, as Susana mentioned, I think one of the biggest challenges is to try and understand and then develop the potential that EUTOPIA Alliance can have. So it's trying to understand what already exists and what we can build upon that. I know, and I've, as Susana mentioned, is trying to navigate the different initiatives, the different projects, the different calls and resources that are already available within the EUTOPIA Alliance. So, for example, one that I think I would like to be involved, but there may be others that I'm not aware of, is the Global Health Connected Community. So that is just one example. And I'm sure that there are other opportunities to develop, as was mentioned, in terms of collaborations, sharing of practices, sharing of what works, what doesn't work, and how to make it work in different settings. So kind of translating the different knowledge that different people have in different places around the world, and improve the awareness of the problems that we are trying to address, and how to minimize the impacts on human health, and also improve quality of life and well-being. So for me, those are the biggest opportunities that I can see at the moment.
Thank you so much, Professor Raquel Nunes. I would pass the floor to Professor Tibor Hartel.
Thank you very much. Although I repeat that thank you for responding part of my responses already. So I see I recognize some challenges already we also face in what was told by Professor Viegas and Nunes before. Indeed, that is part of this transdisciplinary adventure of how to create that institutional space where the people engaging in this could function while keeping their identity and also their entitlement to have a personal life and to be effective as scientist and teacher and also in personal life. And why I'm saying this as a challenge, because in our experience, being engaged with the local communities, gaining their trust is a huge result. And imagine that when I am working with interviews to understand the social dimensions of human large carnivore coexistence. We have 7,000 bears in Romania. They create a lot of problems. The bear is protected. And when the local communities are inviting you for interviews and not you are trying somehow to find the people, that means they trust you. But that trust requires a lot of energy, effort to build. They sometimes or increasingly request from you different inputs, and that should be somehow integrated in the existing increasing obligations. And so that I see these are the challenges to create safe operational space for being social relevant in a transdisciplinary way. I think that the EUTOPIA Consortium could help in this respect, because if certain challenges and certain opportunities are simultaneously recognized and expressed and conceptualized, I think that this can be the premises of some institutional transformation for some more socially relevant academia. So it could be an experiment in this respect. And I see that the desire exists. It's just that we have to channel it somehow. So thank you. That was the only thing what I wanted to transmit.
Thank you so much to the three of you. I think you provided some valuable insights on what EUTOPIA can do further. Of course, EUTOPIA has already started doing some projects and trying to connect, but of course, it's never enough, so we can do even more and better. And this field requires more concerted collaborations. And I would like to also share some of the topics that EUTOPIA is working on. And one of them is regarding science diplomacy. So this translation from science to international negotiations. And this is a field that EUTOPIA is actively working on. And then they created recently in January, EUTOPIA Health, which tries to empower universities to foster economic excellence in health specifically. And all of our universities are connected through this project, and is also a good opportunity to do it. And it's within the Horizon call from the EU, so also funded by European Union. And then there's also the EUTOPIA that aims to train students in the international environment on sustainable practices and towards sustainable development. So there are some things that are starting to be developed, but we need to try harder and try to achieve better outcomes for our universities, not only the three of us, but also the other that are involved in EUTOPIA. And I think this webinar is a great start for it. for future collaborations and future projects that we can develop together. And now I don't know if any of the speakers would like to add something else. If not, I would open the floor for questions from the participants. I don't know if you have any question. If you like, you can open the mic and speak up, raise your hand, or type in the chat box if you wish. If not, I would like to ask a question to the three of you. Would you consider, for instance, since we know that COP negotiations have been going on every year, and last year we had something about fossil fuel phase out, which is or progressive phase out of fossil fuels, which is not so the language that featured in the final negotiations was not the ideal one. So what would your universities can do together, or in the context of Utopia, to further strengthen knowledge for COP negotiations? And I would like to ask the three of you. And maybe we can start with Professor Susana.
And thank you. Not being an expert, but maybe providing some experience that we have used on air pollution is on using the burden of disease related with air pollution to justify more strict regulations on air quality. And I guess the tone in COP when negotiating is very much based on the economical burden that is related with the fact that we are not more ambitious when we think on phasing out fossil uses. And I guess we need to show more and better the other part of the other side of the coin is the kind of costs that we are having nowadays because we still use fossil fuels. And those costs are very high related with disease due to the emissions that result from the use of fossil fuels. So I guess this interconnection or showing health data and using health data to justify measures on the environmental side is a good approach. It might be a good way to support more ambitious environmental policies. So yeah, we have that experience. It might work, it might not, but I think it should be something more global, not only from a country or party or member state, but something from several regions of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would ask the same question to Professor Raquel Nunes, also because she was developing work on for COP, so I'd like to ask her.
Thank you. Yes, so I did have a climate risk fellowship back when for COP26. So since then I have not worked directly with the COP or COP universities, but in terms of what the University of Warwick has done is and then continues to do is to have a very inclusive approach into how researchers, the research that the university is doing and the research findings that are coming out from that research has a stage. So within the COP. So I know that some colleagues based at Warwick have been to different COPs and have been able to showcase the different research that is happening at the university. And there is also a conference organized by the university where different researchers convene and speak with the media in order to, again, transfer this knowledge into more and have more of a social impact, more a community impact. So there are these initiatives going on. In terms of the specific texts, yeah, we know when there are so many countries involved and so many policies and politics involved in this topic, and obviously specifically due to the place where this COP happened. Yeah. The negotiations, I think a lot was achieved, but a lot can be achieved in the future. A lot more can be achieved, but I think we need to start with baby steps, and I think this is a good starting point that we need to obviously continue working on and make sure that all of the countries that have signed the agreement take this forward. And we need to evaluate how each and every country is implementing or is taking what has been agreed into their national policies, and see what impacts that has. So yeah, and in terms of climate change, I don't think we should put all eggs in one basket. So we need to think about adaptation. We need to think about mitigation. So I think it's such a complex issue that we need to be working in so many different fronts in order to achieve the impact that we want to achieve in terms of reducing mortality and morbidity, reducing carbon emissions, adapting policies, and adapting the way we live today. So there's so many things, so many approaches, and I think there is a place for everyone, for every discipline, for collaborative work, for learning from each other, and that's what we need to continue doing in the future.
Thank you so much, Professor Raquel. I would pass the floor to Professor Tibor Hartel.
Thank you very much. I am not involved in this type of issues, topics, because I'm ecologist, so I am following mostly the biodiversity and ecosystem service related aspects. But if you allow me to respond in an analog, somehow comparative way, broadly the typology, I guess, also is important. I follow the IPBES activities. That means Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, which is a formal and a powerful platform to unite government scientists and channel them in a common path to halt and restore biodiversity loss. And I must say that Romania is highly absent from IPBES. So basically we have an office in the Ministry of Environment building, but that office is not functional. And why? Simply because it seems that Romania is unable to provide scientists and sustain them for this platform. I'm not sure how much this is valid for other platforms in climate change and others, but it may be valid that Romania may not be so present as it should be in terms of sustaining this or supporting this collective international initiatives. And so I agree with the small steps, but in this case, I guess that we have to make the steps to to create some premises of making other small steps in Romania. On the other way, we, I guess, do whatever we can in local levels, given that no support exists from the government for research. Romania, for the present, for the people who are present in this webinar, just to know that we are the last country in the European Union in terms of scientific outputs. And why to not speak about this, since this is because the highly uncertain funding of research and the big corruption at the level of government creates troubles and cascade down to the quality of the science, what we are doing. So that often we are in the situation that we have to fix problems, solve problems, but we don't have the scientific information needed for that. So that we are quite active in terms of helping the societies in navigation, but this is not measurable in terms of Web of Science outputs or any other reports. And so that a lot of things are interdependent, and the context matters, the history matters, and we have to still work a lot in catching the minimum decent international level in our presence in international platforms.
Thank you so much, Professor Tibor, for your testimonial. I think it's quite important that we have quality data and we have the means to monitor and evaluate what we do. So thank you so much for your contribution. I would just like to wrap up this webinar by challenging the speakers to wrap up and summarize this webinar in one sentence. So I would challenge the three of you to provide one sentence about this webinar and about what we discussed here. Professor Susana?
Thank you. Well, more ideas and ways to collaborate. Yeah, that is the sentence. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Raquel?
An opportunity for engagement. Yeah, that's for sure. Academic, community, policy, science. So yeah, for me, that summarizes it.
Thank you so much. And Professor Tibor?
Collaboration, sharing experiences, and assisting each other.
Thank you so much to the three of you. It was a very interesting and fruitful webinar. We were able to discuss a lot of things, from knowledge translation, from collaboration, and most importantly, sharing experiences. So thank you for participating and connecting, and we hope that we can have a way forward for the future. Thank you so much to everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the
Bye-bye.
invitation. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Have a nice
Have a
day.
nice day.